Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Joey Seeley, owner of Emotion Engineering. We have a special episode for you this time where we get to share a special project car, not of our own. As you know, we specialize in project cars and developing track cars, rally cars, taking track cars and restoring them back to their original glory. Some of them are track, some of them are hot rod, some of them are off-road, some of them are rally. We enjoy the development process. What most people don't know is that our background is in professional motorsport. Back in the early 2000s, the race teams were able to develop the car a little bit further than what Porsche or any manufacturer provided to the race teams. Nowadays with the BOP, which is the balance of power, you aren't allowed to develop a car very far. So, like we get to do day in and day out of developing cars beyond what they're supposed to be used for, Porsche took the opportunity to develop a race car based on an existing car and remove all restrictions, and I mean that in every form, power, aerodynamics, weight, and apply that to their existing race car. What we get to show you is the 992 GT3R Rennsport. So back in my day, racing in American Le Mans Series, we raced the 996 and 997 RSR. The 996 RSR was an incredible machine. The 997 RSR, even better. And then as the years went on, the cars continued to get better. And obviously the entry-level purchase price of the cars got higher and higher. I think we've basically gotten to the point of 4x the original cost of an RSR. But back then, as I mentioned, we were able to develop the car and make them a little bit better than original and stay competitive, and that was really fun. Now that's not so much allowed for race teams, which is one of the reasons why we don't race professionally anymore, and we enjoy developing cars for various purposes for our clients. Porsche, with the GT3R Rennsport, did the same thing. They took a GT3R that they developed for professional motorsport, very successful car, but then they removed all restrictions, just like they did with the 919, and they removed all restrictions on aero and power, and ran around with Timo Bernhard driving, breaking the overall record at Spa and Nürburgring, faster than an F1 car. Pretty amazing. I don't have many stats for this car, but to take a GT3R and remove all aero restrictions, power restrictions, and just have some fun, because not only did they improve aero, they were creative in the styling and made it a beautiful car. And for me, form follows function, but to just go a little bit further and make it even more beautiful while being functional, it's an art piece. It's a true art piece and a brilliant piece of machinery. So we're going to show you a few things that really stand out to us that aren't necessarily pointed out in other project interviews, but let's take a look. What's really fun for me, because we've shown it to you before with our 991 GT3R Turbo for Pikes Peak, we cut out some of the front bumper area to reduce frontal area and create downforce. Porsche has done that too with this inlet here that passes into the wheel well and evacuates out the back of the wheel well, which is going to reduce drag and create downforce. It also passes air through behind the headlight and out the top of the fender. Just brilliant stuff and beautiful. They also don't run mirrors. You can see here, pretty naked, but there's cameras in the fender. So the driver will still, at each end of the dashboard, kind of like where your mirrors would be, our camera, they're monitors. So the cameras, they can still see back behind them, and there's a rear view camera in the same fashion on the rear deck lid. Similar to the air that passes through the front bumper, it also is passing through the front dive planes here in a very attractive manner, reducing drag, reducing frontal area, increasing downforce, and of course just setting up all the air that is downstream to be more effective as well. You see these beautiful, I call these buttresses, you know, like the Greek cathedrals. You know, it's a gorgeous piece, but that's going to keep, it's allowing the air to evacuate from the Fender well, which is the spinning wheel creates positive pressure. Evacuating it is going to reduce drag and increase downforce, but it's also being controlled and keeping the air clean for what's to happen downstream. We have these beautiful air inlets that are more pronounced than normal for the race cars or for the street cars. And then more buttress work back here on the rear bumper. Absolutely beautiful craftsmanship there. You can also see, you know, like a street car has fender liners to, you know, cut down on sound and protect vitals. We didn't have protection like this back in my day. These fender wells are completely closed off. So all the air that's tumbling around, which would be parasitic air and creating lift, they're controlling it as much as possible. You know, so it stays clean, stays laminar, and is evacuated, which is going to reduce drag and reduce lift. But I mean, the level this is sealed off, I mean, this is going to be great for service work, you know, because there's going to be less rocks and rubber that is trapped on the front subframe and at the steering rack, and same goes for the rear. The rear is just as closed off and beautiful. You look at the back here, and it's just this beautiful carbon Kevlar tub, you know, tub like they do on the hot rods and drag racers, but it's the same thing. It's keeping the available air, you know, the spinning air, keeping it clean and reducing the amount, the volume of air. But still, the debris can't get to the subframes as easy, and it's just absolutely stunning. The rear wing is a beautiful piece. I love this, you know, because this draws inspiration from the 935-77, which is 77, that was the year, but also as they did with the 935-19, they made 77 of these cars. Again, like I said, the 935-19, they made 77 of those as well. So it's a tribute to that year of those cars, but this whale tail draws so much inspiration from that. And then the rear wing draws inspiration from the 962 with these added supports because the amount of downforce. This is a massive amount of surface area. I mean, this is, not only is it long, but it is extremely wide. And the deck lid itself is creating, you know, quite a bit of downforce and, you know, controlling the airflow for the wing. For me, the first thing that I notice that you don't usually get the opportunity is the attention to detail. I mean, everything is done, which is awesome, because normally a race car is like, oh, you could have done this. This could be better. But that's not how racing works anymore. You know, you're not allowed to, and Porsche's not allowed to. But right down to the tow hook, it's barely showing. You know, and then they have rubber here that closes off this entrance. Not only is it closing it off, but it's a flush mount. But the tow hook still slides out. A good aero piece, it's minimal, but all of these details will add up for aero performance. What's fun to talk about also, for me always, is what's hidden underneath, whether it's the beautiful control arms or anything like that. But this car, the underbody aero that we'll show you is stunning. You know, it started back in my day with the 996 RSR with the flat bottom car, which was very effective, you know, for turbulent air. But in our rules at the time, that it had to be flat from axle to axle. If you had a 5mm high spot, like a pocket, that was illegal. So you had to make sure your floors were perfectly flat. Remove all restrictions, whatever the rules are for any class. And this underbody, they absolutely pulled out all the stops. On a GT car, I've never seen anything like it. There's a giant high spot in the floor right at the front axle, which is going to create a massive negative pressure area. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely effective, not legal, I don't even think. I don't know all the rules anymore, but in my day, it definitely wasn't. But really effective ground effects, an underbody aero, kind of reminiscent of LMP cars in my day. I don't know what they're even called anymore, but the prototypes, having the beginning of a pontoon in the middle of going down the center of the car. It's pretty fascinating and beautiful how they control the airflow. In the back of the car, rear diffuser is similar to the GT3R, and modern GT cars. But what's really neat is what we started to do on our GT3R Turbo, but we ran out of time and it was money, which is a very important resource. But Porsche did it with this. You notice the angle of this exhaust right above the diffuser, and they're at similar angle of attack. This is essentially a blown diffuser. The air coming out of the exhaust, at 9,400 RPM, is accelerating the air that's coming off of the diffuser, which makes it more efficient and more effective. They use that in F1. I mean, every team does. It's pretty amazing stuff. Just like underneath the car, what's under the deck lid or under the front hood is some of the best work. This beautiful lightweight reinforcement here for the wing mounts. Let's make them light, let's make them effective, and that's just beautiful to me. The engine, you can see, you don't really recognize much because you don't get to see 911 engines much anymore, but if you have seen them, this is extra special. This monstrous carbon fiber intake manifold sits above individual throttles. This is a 4.2 liter flat six, making 620 horsepower, which is about 70 horsepower over the homologated GT3R. Not only is the engine performance impressive, but what you'll see or not see is the alternator. So to not save weight, but to move weight off of the business end, they put the alternator in front of the starter, which is brilliant. You're moving a rather heavy piece of equipment, machinery that to the about, 3 or 4 feet forward. Pretty incredible. And for anyone working on it, it's a little tidier, a little cleaner. The accessibility is better. But a naturally aspirated 6-cylinder making 620 horsepower, that's brilliant. The car in full carbon skin weighs 2,700 pounds. So the power to weight ratio, you do the math, it's pretty incredible. Pretty standard issue stuff on the factory race cars is the air jacks, which we're up on right now. So we could have the wheels off to show you and show you the underbody. But right here through the quarter glass, make-believe quarter glass, is the air jack. And these indicators, these lights are for oil level. Super easy for the teams to, or maybe it's not a team because this actually wouldn't be raced competitively, for the crew on pit wall to be able to quickly see, with these LED lights, what the oil level is. The wheels are specific to the car. It's a 13-inch rear rim, the BBS 18-inch rim, and the front is a 18 by 12.5. So the same as the GT3R, but specific to this car in design, as are the tires are as well, specific for this car. Let's take a look underneath the front hood. This is similar to other GT3Rs, even our center radiator hood conversion for the 991s. But what you'll notice is the rest of it is unrecognizable, which is fascinating because there's no front strut towers. The front struts are not struts, it's a front shock now because it's a double A-arm, but it's integrated into the roll cage. There's nothing here. There's just the original frame rail down here, and then roll cage coming through the cockpit to connect with all of it, and that's where your front shock hooks up to it. So get rid of all the nonsense that you don't need, which is going to save weight, but really it just makes it efficient. An efficient build, efficient to service, efficient to repair. What you really can't see, but I'll explain it anyways. The sway bar, the blade style sway bar is usually down on the subframe, but likely to save some space and clean up the airflow through the wheel well. The sway bar is right here, right behind this exhaust shroud for the center radiator. It tucks in right behind, similar to, honestly, the F-body and G-body cars back in the day. These massive sewer pipes are the brake ducts, so there's plenty of brake cooling going on here. The fuel filler, the quick fill Krontec fuel filler, that's for fast pit stops. This isn't going to be doing pit stops, but what you see here is a cap that matches the shape. It's because this is interchangeable depending on which side pit wall is on, which the same goes for up here. So there's a door to close it off. You just swap sides, move this to the other side, put the cap on. You know, very, very efficient stuff. We didn't have that, but we also just had a center fill, which was very effective, but you know, everything's changed. It's been a long time. What you'll see also that's pretty cool is the expansion tank for the engine is up front. So moving some of the clutter out of harm's way. You know, if you have some issue in the back, this is moving as much weight forward. It's efficient. It's clean. It's just a piece of artwork. A lot of people don't realize, I mean, rules have changed, and that even means for safety. There is now an access hatch. This is for aiding in removing the driver from the car, because with head restraints and side impact bars, this is kind of a narrow exit, but also if there's a back injury or a neck injury, it's very difficult to stabilize them. You can stabilize the driver and evacuate them through the roof. These little holes on each side are actually tools for the crane to lift the car and put it over the wall, you know, out of harm's way for everyone else, and allow the race to continue. You know, there's entirely too much to share. So for me, it's fun to just share the stuff that usually is neglected or you don't gain access to see. One of the fun things in these collector cars, you know, like the 935 or the GT3R Club Sport, and this even, you know, a few notches above that, they come with their own toolbox. Obviously this gets removed, you know, when you're going to use the car, but it's delivered in this beautiful carbon fiber case. Everything about it is tidy. I mean, they are not messing around these days. You know, everything serves a purpose. There's nothing, like, every attention to detail of, like I said, moving equipment around in the car to distribute weight differently or make it easier to service or get it out of harm's way if there's a on-track wreck. It's brilliant stuff. Very complex and complicated, but also very simple at the same time. But I say complex and complicated because it's difficult for Porsche or any race team or people like us to come up with those simple solutions. It takes a lot of effort to get there. You know, things that look wild, that's easier, and it's actually not efficient. Just like I mentioned on the other side, the camera in the fender for this rear view, but also in the back here on the deck lid or under the wing is the rear view camera. Let me show you the monitors inside the car. So this is basically your monitor for the left mirror. The right mirror is over there. Basically in the location, you know, because it's hard to untrain your brain to look for mirrors. The first time I drove a right-hand drive car, that was the hardest part. It wasn't shifting with the other hand, because how many times have you know, shifted for your buddy while they're drinking their coffee? You know, but it was the placement of the mirrors. You look up right for your rear view, up left was very confusing. You know, your left mirror was really close and your right mirror was really far. Swapping that, it was just so hard for me to get used to. But in this case, the monitors are generally in their proper location, so you take away some of that guesswork. And in the middle there is the rear view camera. A little bit lower than normal, but still. I mean, we're getting used to that too with our rear view cameras on the dash for, backup cameras. What you see here is a little bit of leg restraint. That's not new, but it's a bit newer in concept. In a side impact, a lot of times the driver will end up with broken legs from the slap, if it's a side impact. So these are to protect the driver's legs a little bit more, so there's less movement and less chance of a break. And speaking of brake, look at the size of that brake pedal. Being that this is it's a 2-pedal car, and lots of drivers do their left foot braking. That's the biggest brake pedal I've ever seen. The other massive difference between my day of racing and nowadays is the amount of function on the steering wheel. We did not have this much, and definitely the tunability for the driver. They're tuning and adjusting traction control, their brake bias, the ABS. It goes on and on. I don't even know all of it. I'm not going to try. I should be 70 years old. I hate electronics. But it's so clean. There's so much more going on, but it's so clean. And that's, like I said before, that's the hardest thing to do is package a lot of stuff into a small area and making it clean and efficient and very attractive. This, for me, the suspension nowadays, I can only wish I had this stuff back in the day. The amount of adjustability and the efficiency of it is incredible. There's shim adjustability for, at the upper control arm. We didn't have upper control arms in the front, but shim adjustability everywhere is so much better than anything that's threaded, because you don't know the range of adjustment. You have an idea, but it is not precise when it's a threaded anything. So there's shim adjustable ride height on the shock, which is, exactly how much you are raising the ride height every time. And you know how to match it to the other side of the car or to the rear, or you can literally have your setup for rain or for a different track. All of your setups are literally counting shims. You can quickly go from track to track, throwing shims in or taking shims out, having your ride height and your camber and your toe and your caster exactly where you expect it to be every time, without an eccentric or a threaded rod or a threaded perch. It's just so precise. It's beautiful. Here you can see the shim stack for ride height, which is, it just makes it so efficient. Here's your ride height potentiometer, so that's for the data acquisition. You have a 5-way adjustable damper with blow off. You have shim adjustable toe on your tie rod. Again, brilliant stuff. We didn't have that. And the bushings, all adjustable for changing geometry, which I don't promote very much, as you know, because most people don't know how to really change geometry beyond camber and toe and ride height, and even then it can be questionable. Changing bump steer and other geometry that I won't get into to not confuse anyone. It gets a little bit difficult for most. Race teams that are going to run this car have an engineer that really understands it, and the mechanics that are doing the adjustments for them, they might not understand it. It's for the engineer. But really fascinating stuff, because there's the possibilities are limitless. God, I can only imagine how fast these things are. It'd be so much fun. All the factory race cars from Porsche have KW dampers. This is a KW 5-way adjustable damper with blow off. A lot of people ask why KW. One is, the factory race cars use them. 2, I used KW back in my ALMS days to I had a lot of success with them. Every change that we made to the damper, the driver could immediately feel, and it was in the direction that they were expecting it to, and for the engineers and myself to anticipate the change. And then failures, there weren't any. We never had a failure on the damper. So that still goes for my street cars. I rarely have to service them. We rarely have an issue. So that reliability is important. The performance is obviously important. But I can still engineer these in my sleep. So it comes down to, you know, we send a kit or a car across the country or somewhere else in the world. You know, I can take emails and phone calls, make a change to their damper settings for them or have them do it, and it's exactly what I expect it to be. You know, which is fascinating because then I get follow-up emails or phone calls about how they can't believe it. It's exactly what they were looking for. It's a lot of fun. But you see where that all comes from. You know, 20 years in the making for me, 25 years. But I've used a lot of others, and there's a lot of great other, you know, damper companies, but this is the one I stand behind the most, and clearly so does Porsche. Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I sure have. And I'm not going to stop looking at this, you know, intimately for a very long time because there's still more details that are going to pop out as I stare at this, like I stare at all, you know, all of our other projects. But it's a lot of fun for me to share with you, you know, some of the intimate details that you normally don't get to because you just get a still photo, you know, somewhere of this car, or, you know, occasionally running it. But to dig into the car a little bit further and share it with you is fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed it.